Hi, my name's Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the users of BAS to show you guys how to reconcile your GST accounts and other BAS taxes accounts in BAS. So before I sort of get into that, I do want to just cover off what is a basic reconciliation. So I've set up an example here, and let's say you had rental premises and you paid a bond for that premises. So here we have the $1,000, let's say it's $1,000 paid as a bond. Now later on, and that's on the balance sheet, and then later on we get that refunded. Let's say we move out and it gets refunded. So then we do cash received, and I guess just pick any date, and the landlord pays it back. Refund rental bond, add a line, and it's $1,000. Rental bond, GST code is going to be not applicable. Save. Now you can actually see the two transactions there. Just ignore these other transactions for a moment. That's the $1,000 going out, and then about 11 months later there's the refund of the rental bond. So just a few test transactions to demonstrate the concept here. Now we go back to the balance sheet and in fact change the date to so we can see that. Alright, so rental bond is there, it's 0, okay, because the two amounts offset. But if we go into it, we can see the two amounts are there. We have the positive 1,000 and the minus 1,000. Now that may not be the only transactions in an account, so it's important to reconcile so that people can know what's going on. So we select them both and click reconcile selected transactions. They disappear. So the idea behind reconciliations is things that offset are closed and you want to hide them. So you can still see history if you need to by using this month's history, but ordinarily you're only just interested in what's currently outstanding. So you would just display the currently outstanding, which in this case is nothing. Now this is what we want to do with your GST accounts as well, because let's say you sell stuff, you collect the GST from the customer, you pay it off to the ATO. You want to know what you've collected and what you've paid out, and make sure that that you haven't paid out too much or not enough. And so it's the same concept, but the difference with GST is there's a lot more transactions. Okay, and another difference is that there's a rounding adjustment as well. So let's go and see how this works for a business activity statement. Now I've set up this business activity statement. It's on the period July 2005, so it's just an example. Okay, and these are the sales here. 3 of them have GST and 2 of them are GST free. Okay, so the total sales here is actually 99.64, made up of 3 transactions. If I go to the activity statement page, sales here is $100, or the GST on sales or GST payable is $100. Okay, so there's a little bit of a rounding difference there as well. Now first of all, down here there's a new box called record BAS payment and reconcile. Okay, so there's 2 methods to doing this, and I'm going to choose no here, which is the question is move to accounts payable. So what the yes would do is it can just suck out all the GST you're paying on this BAS and move it into the accounts payable. So you just see one line there, which is an amount payable to the ATO for your BAS. That's actually what I'm going to recommend, but before I demonstrate that, I want to show you guys the, let's say, traditional way of doing this. Okay, so I'll say traditional because the accountants wouldn't probably like or normally move the GST payable into accounts payable because you've got trade payables and you keep GST and pay-as-you-go separate. Although I think that it's easy enough to separate it out anyway. So we select who we're going to pay this GST to, which is the Australian Taxation Office, of course, and we need a roundings account. So I'm just going to put other expenses, although I kind of recommend you set up a dedicated account for that. Okay, now having done that, all you have to do is click Reconcile BAS Taxes. Okay, so now it says reconciliation complete. Doesn't show you a lot about what it's done on that page, but when you go back to your balance sheet and click on GST payable, now I probably really should have shown you what this account looked like before doing that reconciliation process, but afterwards it's really nice and clean. We've just got $100, and the description of that is your July 2015 business activity statement. If I click to view the history, you can see what it would have been like before. We would have had all these, well, 3 transactions totaling $99.64. So what the reconciliation has done is it has reversed out the 99.64 and put in the positive $100, which is the rounded amount, and put the difference of 36 cents into the other expenses account. It's also reconciled those transactions there to basically hide them. So rather than having the idea being, rather than having sort of hundreds of transactions that is kind of impossible to figure out and understand, it just simplifies it down to, in this case, just the one transaction. Okay, now the system actually does link your transactions to the business activity statement. So there can be, although in this case there's only all of these transactions, let's say they are all on this BAS, but there could be transactions that didn't make it on that BAS because they were either entered late or after the BAS was lodged and backdated, or there could be a cash basis BAS, and there could be a sale that hasn't been, the cash hasn't been received yet. So that's another factor that makes it really kind of impossible to humanly reconcile this account. But with this reconciliation feature, it's done it for us. Now, the other thing to point out is it's done it on the GST receivable account as well. There was another just one transaction on the BAS, and it has cleaned that up for us. It's also done it on the pay-as-you-go withholding payable account as well, where there was 3 transactions that add up to 600.03, so there's a 3-cent rounding, and it's put it in there. So it goes through all the business activity statement taxes. Now, when you pay your BAS, you can code your payment into this account and then offset it with that transaction there. So you can actually reconcile it, and then it cleanly offsets, and anytime you want to see what GST you've got payable, it's just whatever's in this account. So now that's, I guess, what I've called the traditional way of doing it, but I want to now show you what I think is just a little bit easier, particularly for the non-accountants, way of doing it. Now I have to remove this transaction, so I probably should point out, like, the system has created this transaction, and that's the one that moves the roundings around and reconciles it. Now, in fact, if I double click on any of these transactions, well, maybe not that one, but go into here and click through to that transaction, and if I try to just cancel it, I'm going to send it to trash because I want to show you the other way of doing it. It's going to say error, one of the modified lines is on a lodged activity statement. So the system has a protection in place that you can't change something to make your activity statement not balanced, which will save you time in terms of wondering, and for your accountant as well, save them time in terms of wondering what actually went wrong on your BAS. I mean, there is a trick to getting around that, which you probably shouldn't do, which is to remove the transaction from the BAS first, and then you can go back to it, and then you can cancel it. Rightio, and I'm only doing that just so I can show you the alternative, or what I think is the preferred way to do this. So we're back on the activity statement, and let's do this again. But in this case, we're going to select yes, move to accounts payable, put in the ATO as the counterparty, round his account, we'll leave that on other expenses, and click reconcile BAS taxes. Okay, reconciliation complete, and in this case it tidies up your balance sheet. It in fact, let's look at GST payable, it's made it 0. So if we double click on that, there's nothing there. If we look at the history, update report, it shows you've got this GST coming in when you sell stuff, and then this transaction is what the system's just created, which is to clear out this account once you've lodged your BAS. So where has it put it? Well, it's put it into accounts payable. So if we go to accounts payable, we see that there's an amount owing to the ATO here of $609. So if I double click on it, you can see the components of what makes up the 609, which is $100 GST you owe to the ATO, $91 that's going to be received back from the ATO on your purchases, and $600 pay as you go withholding. Now, so the total is 609. If we go to the activity statement and click through to the activity statement lodgement page, we can see and confirm that it is the 609 there. So I think that second way is a lot cleaner, and it also saves you from having to do any kind of complex journal when you actually pay it, because for example, when you go to pay this, you could just say, alright, well, I'm going to pay that thing, and go into pay July 2005 BAS, put 609, and then save. Okay, and it's cleared out that that payment. So let's just view some history. So in fact, this accounts payable page, it's another reconciliation. So you're you've got the BAS there, and then the payment of the BAS. Alright, so there you have it. You know, pretty easy to pay in that case, and I kind of recommend this second way, as I've said. Well, and that's all there is to it. So I hope this video has been useful to you, and thank